All right. Oh, and it didn't go to the right page, so now I got to go back. Or nope, I got to go first. This is why I don't publish my videos online, for everybody to see, because then I'm going to get critiqued. Oh, thank you. I was going to send somebody down, but then I forgot. Can you put it like on my chair? Thanks, Maddie. Whew. All right, so chapter 3 is about displaying and describing categorical data. It is sort of our first look into the various ways that we look at data. Okay, categorical data in general tends to use a little bit more bar graph, pie chart kind of things than the quantitative data. Quantitative data will have histograms, and we have a bunch of different ones for category or for quantitative data, but that's next chapter. So there's a couple of rules that we kind of want to follow for data analysis. And if you started your reading in chapter 3 this weekend, you will know what these 3 rules are, because they're very easy to remember, right? It's rule number 1 is to make a picture, because making a picture helps you think about the data. When we look at tables and just numbers, it looks like number vomit, right? And when we have enough of it, it just becomes very difficult to read, because there's just so many numbers that we cannot organize it in our brains in a good way. Okay, so making a picture helps us think about the data. It helps us analyze for trends. It helps us to think, right? It helps us to think. The second rule is to make a picture. Because you want to make a picture to help you show important features, right? Or patterns in the data. Again, patterns and features, things like this, they don't show up when you're just looking at number vomit, okay? You really need to have a picture to see those things. A trend is difficult to see in numbers, especially if it's a smaller trend, right? If it's not, and when I say smaller trend, I mean like if it's a less obvious trend. Okay, you can't really see it when just looking at number vomit in a table. We really want a picture to be able to see that. And the final rule is to make a picture, because making a picture helps us display and communicate data. Because if I take a survey or a poll and I get all of this information, and then to the general public I throw a bunch of number vomit at you, no one's going to read it. For the same reason why we need a picture to understand and look at trends, we need a picture to show that data. So anytime you are gathering data, like in this class, in the future, anytime you're ever doing something that involves you gathering data and giving it to somebody else, you absolutely need to make a picture, right? And you can choose the type of graph that you want to do, whatever is most appropriate for your particular needs. But you need to make a picture, because pictures help us communicate. Okay. So I've got a picture of, well, let's talk about frequency tables first. So a frequency table shows the count of the totals in each category. So that's a frequency table. This, by the way, is not your data, because obviously we didn't take it because Google was broken. This is last year's. The big picture plan was to put your stuff there, but Google broke. And when Google breaks, nothing works, right? We are dependent on the almighty and dominant. So that's a frequency table, right? It's got the categories over here: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, dark brown. And then this is just a count. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. This is just a count. There were 58 reds. There were 77 oranges. There were 64 yellows. There were 81 greens. There were 71 blues. And there were 53 dark browns. That's all this says, right? Can I change this because that's a number now? I'm not waiting for 8 of them. Just 8. Then we have this thing called a relative frequency table, which instead of showing a count, shows a proportion. So it is a percentage of the data. It doesn't just show the numbers. What it does is it shows the numbers relative to the total. So this relative frequency table, these numbers that we see right here are not how many there were, that is the percent that there were. There was 14.35% red. And again, to find percents, we took the total amounts, right? Which was, what was the amount of red? 58. So that's like 58. And the total amount was something bigger than 58. I didn't put a total on the last slide, did I? Oh, man. I'm going to guess that it's like, I'm just going to write total there. Because that's better, right? I don't remember what the total is. Out of the total amount, right? Because that's, finding percents. So, relative frequency tables show proportions, they show percentages. Sometimes it's good to look at counts, sometimes it's good to look at proportions, because proportions tell us a lot. If we're looking at how much green are we talking about? Well, we're 20% green. The proportions tell us how much is there relative to something else, right? Relative to the total. So yeah, there were 58 reds, but that's only 14% of the overall M&M. That's not a huge amount. In fact, that's the second smallest amount. Whereas, dark brown, 13.11. Whereas green was 20%. That was what, 81? 81? Yeah. Okay. So frequency tables show counts, relative frequency tables show percentages. That word relative will show up anytime you see relative, it's talking about percents. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns so far? Like vocabulary. So here's a bar chart. This is a bar chart of that data. Notice that it is visual, right? In terms of looking at which one's the highest, which one has the biggest amount, a bar chart like this, nicely colored and labeled, does a lot more for us than looking at counts in a table. I can see, without having to read any numbers, that green is the most, and then orange, and then blue, and then yellow, and then red, and then brown, right? I don't have to read the numbers to do that. And the fact that, this one was only 6 different things. If we had like 20 different things, it'd be a lot better to have the bar chart. But it's visual, right? It helps us explain the data. I can very easily say green is the highest percent by showing all of you this. This helps us interpret it, and it helps us to describe and see the trend that the overall count of what proportions are higher. This picture, this graph, is a better representation of that frequency table. So we've got bar charts. We've got a relative bar chart. This is the same thing, only it's percents instead of counts. Notice. Is the overall shape of these graphs changing? What? Why are you mad? Is the overall shape of these things changing? Why not? It's the same amount of M&Ms. It's the same amount of M&Ms. So it's not going to change data drastically. Yeah. Just because we're reporting something as a percent instead of a count doesn't mean that it's actually changing the relative amounts. It's just how we're deciding to do it. We got pie charts. That's the other way that we can represent categorical data. When you say you can't really tell the difference, what do you mean? It's hard to tell which one's bigger or smaller. Yes. So yes, very, very astute observation, right? Pie charts are great when we have drastic differences. They're also good when we can very easily see differences that are fractions that we understand, right? When I say that, what I mean is when I say 1/4, can you guys interpret what 1/4 of the circle looks like? Yes, because we understand 1/4, right? 1/4 is very easy to picture in our heads. If I were to say, well, the green makes up 7/29 of the graph, is that easy to interpret what it is? No, like we could estimate 7 out of 29, 7's close to 28, that's about 1/4. But this is not a friendly number, okay? It's not a friendly number for when we're looking things up, especially if I were to say, like, instead of 7/29, I were to say 1/29. I know that 1/29 is small, but I have no idea how small. So pie charts are good, but they have limitations, right? Limitations that are basically, if they're all really close to each other, these are all within 5%. The pie chart does not represent this data well. So you, as a statistician who is trying to communicate numbers to people, you have to kind of discern that stuff a little bit. Is this data good for pie charts? Well, all of the percentages are kind of the same. None of them are really close to any well-known fractions like 1/4 or 1/2 or 1/3 or even 1/5. That's about where we have to cut it though, right? If it's not one of those well-known fractions, then it's likely not going to be a good use of pie chart, right? You're probably better off using a bar chart. Let's see, what time is it? We're at 40 today? 3 minutes. We kind of talked about that. Let's do that tomorrow. Let's put your homework up. Has anybody actually gone back and watched the lesson? I'm glad that that's being used. Okay, so your homework, and you know what? Hey, pick this up. I'll even write the homework on this thing, so if you go back to watch the thing tonight, you'll remember what you're doing. So we have we have 1 or 2. This is on page 37. 1 or 2, you need to go to the internet, need to go to the newspaper, you need to find a news article that has a bar chart, like you guys did with the who, what, where, when stuff. You need to do the same thing, but you're looking for something that has a bar chart or a pie chart. This is going to take a little bit longer, okay? You need a news article with a bar chart or a pie chart. And then I would like you to do 3 through 7. And these are just kind of like, what are looking at, oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. Don't do 3 or 4. I'm going to cross that out. Do 5 through 7. Yeah, okay, yeah, 5 through 7. What? Oh, tomorrow. Homework in general out of the book, always do the next day. What's up? Chapter 3 notes are due. Notes due Thursday, because we're going to. Actually, you know what? We can make it Friday. We'll make it Friday. Oh, good. So it's going to work for everyone. Chapter 3 notes are due Friday. I would read the first couple pages of chapter 3 and come and get your notes from me. Like I said, third period, I'll grade all of those things. So when you get back here in third period, you will be able to get your notes things back. What period is now? It's after, yeah.